Today's adventure takes me to Watseka, Illinois, located about 70 miles south of Chicago, and to Oak Hill Cemetery. This cemetery has thousands of graves and it goes back to the 1830s. And I have an unbelievable story for you today. A story of two young girls. One died and possessed the body of another girl. Now you say, okay, that's a crazy story. Wait until you hear it. It is crazier than you think, and there's a book about it and many eyewitnesses to it. So this may have actually happened. So I'm going to tell you that story today. So come join me as we explore Oak Hill Cemetery. Welcome back, everybody, to another video. This time I'm in Watseka, Illinois, about 70 miles or so south of Chicago. And I wanted to explore this amazing old cemetery, several hundred years old, and I can't wait to tell you this story. But let's take a quick look around here at some of these amazing old monuments. This one here says, Our Little Mary. Caroline, wife of Edward Bishop, born 1844, looks like died 18, I want to say that looks like 77. Yeah, 33 years. Not very old. It is a breezy, cool spring day out here in Watseka. We have a Civil War. Captain George E. Keene, Company F, 113th Illinois Infantry. Thank you for your service. We have here a family plot. The chains are missing, but you can see where the holes the chains went through to mark the family plot. Let's see what family this is. Cisna family. Now there is a town not far away from here, Cisna Park. So I wonder if this family has their namesake for that town. Stephen Cisna, 1815 to 1900. Elizabeth Miller, his wife, 1828 to 1858. So she was very young when she died, 29, and he was about 12 years older than she was, and she still died before him. What a beautiful tombstone. In memory of our son, George, son of Stephen and Elizabeth Cisna, born June 17th, 1851, died October 9th, 1879. So he was in his 20s. And you can see here's George. And then behind him, we have William. I'm not sure who William is. Oh, William's on the side of this. Here we go. Here's William. Born 1816, died 1895. And Stephen was also born 1816. Well, he was born 1815. Okay, so they were born close together, probably brothers, I'm guessing. And on this side, we have Charles, the son, 1864 to 1866. And then Clara, 1839, it looks like, to 1940. 30. So she lived to be a pretty old age. Boy, this cemetery is pretty incredible. I need to get to the story because I'm really excited to tell this story. But before that, look at this amazing. This is probably one of the most amazing tree stump monuments I have ever seen. It stands at least 10 feet high. Phoebe Dunham James died July 11th, 1874, age 67. We have all kinds of things going here. We have a book, and it even says Holy Bible. And there's some writing there that's a little difficult to read. Let me get my handy dandy flashlight out. I see book. Really can't make that word out. There's a B, U, something. But that is incredible. It says father and mother down there. This is amazing. Up on top, there's a cross that appears to be made out of logs. This is an amazing tree stump monument. Aaron James died 1878 at 76. Wow, that is incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then here next to it, we have Benjamin James, died 1870, 25 years of age. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. All right, guys, let's get to this story. Oh, I see a mausoleum. We have to go there, right? Yeah, we have to go there. All right, let's get to this story. This story is about two young ladies, Mary Roff and Mary Lurancy Vennum. And the story goes, Mary Roff, she was born in Indiana in October 8th, 1846, to be exact. And I'm walking into the teeth of the wind, so hopefully the windscreen on my microphone is doing its job. So when Mary was 13 years old, her and her family moved here to Watseka. This is a beautiful one. Henry Fillinghast, it looks like, 1869, age 32. So they moved here to Watseka, but unfortunately Mary's health started to deteriorate. This one has fallen. Laura, daughter of J.C. and something Anderson, died 1873. So her health started to deteriorate, and she was having epileptic fits several times a day. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. And it got so bad that in the spring of 1865, in an attempt to escape the depression caused by her health, her declining health, Mary tried to commit suicide by slashing her wrists. So her parents found her unconscious in a pool of blood and called the doctor immediately. So the doctor must have been close because he came over, saved her life. Here's a Zinke, beautiful Zinke, Lydia Stanley Willoughby, 1850 to 1874. So the doctor came, saved her life. She remained unconscious for a period of time. And when she did eventually gain consciousness again, well, she became so violent that it took several adults to hold her down. And she was delirious for 5 days. Then she suddenly became calm and slept for 15 hours. But the problem is, she would clutch at her face. So they ended up putting bandages around her eyes to protect her eyes so she wouldn't scratch her eyes out. So then when she awoke after her sleep, she slept for about 13 hours after having these fits for 5 consecutive days. She didn't remove them. She felt peace with these bandages on her eyes. And look at this. Look at this mausoleum. The name is Matzenbaugh. Wow. Got the chain around there. You can see somebody tried to open those doors at some point. Beautiful mausoleum. The statue atop and the urns flanking each post on the outer wall. Wow. Okay, getting back to Mary's story. So the amazing thing, this is where things really took a turn for the crazy, is she felt comfortable with these bandages on her eyes and could see perfectly fine with her eyes covered. So family friends, including a man by the name of A.J. Smith, who was the editor of the Danville Times, which is a city not too far from here, and Reverend J.H. Rhea witnessed Mary, heavily blindfolded, accurately read them, the contents of a sealed letter in A.J. Smith's pocket, while having her eyes covered. They couldn't believe this. This can't be real. What's going on here? How can this girl who's blindfolded, can't see, but is reading the contents of this letter? So then they tested her some more, and they put a pile of old letters in front of her, which she couldn't see. And she was able to correctly arrange the letters by date in a pile while blindfolded. You can imagine how crazy this seemed to these people. The problem was, after time, her health continued to deteriorate. And unfortunately, July 5th, 1865, young Mary passed away. And here's the family plot here. And we can see they had a daughter, which is hard to see. They had a son, and here's Mary right here. Died July 5th, 1865 at the age of 18. And there happens to be a green ribbon there. I don't know if that signifies anything or not. All right, so you say to yourself, okay, Brian, that story's a little out there. I mean, I don't know. That's something. Well, no, that's not something. It gets a little crazier. Okay, a lot crazier. So let me fast forward here a little bit. Now, to another girl who lived in this area. So on the day of Mary Roff's death in July 5th, 1865, and here's Reverend Charles Palmer, died 1877, a nice monument to him. So on the day of Mary's death, Lurancy Vennum was 15 months old baby living in Iowa. Okay? Different state, 15 months old. Didn't know who Mary Roff was. So in 1871, the family moved to a farm near Watseka, about 7 miles south of here. This was about 6 years after the death of Mary Roff. And Lurancy Vennum didn't know who who Mary was at all, had no clue. So when Lurancy, or this family called her Rancy for short, was 13, it happened to be the 12th anniversary of Mary Roff's death. That night she slept, woke up, and told her parents that there were people in her room last night, and they kept calling Rancy, Rancy, which was her name. And she said they can feel their breath on her face. There's Morris, nice stone there, and Helen. So she could feel the breath of these people on her face while she was trying to sleep that night. And they're calling her name Rancy. So a week after this, Rancy was helping her mother stitch a broken seam in the carpet when she suddenly felt terrible. She had to go lay down. But before she could do that, she became rigid and fell unconscious for 5 hours. This began to happen every day and usually consisted of Rancy lying stiff with only a faint pulse, her breath slow and weak, and her temperature below normal. She suffered excruciating abdominal pains and would murmur about strange visions, which usually involved what she called angels. And sometimes these attacks lasted upwards of 8 hours. And not only that, she would speak in different voices. And when she would awaken, she would not remember any of this happening. Absolutely bizarre. So the doctors came to visit. They thought she was mentally ill. They wanted parents to put her in an asylum, which they did not. So then at this time, I'm going to go up this hill over here on the other side. So about this time, the spiritualist movement was at its height of popularity, and news of the strange girl brought many curious visitors to see her, including the parents of Mary Roff. They visited the Vennums and persuaded them to allow a doctor, Dr. E. Winchester Stevens of Janesville, Wisconsin, a medical doctor and an advocate of spiritualism, to investigate their case. All right, look at this one. Not in good shape. Buried in the ground. I wonder how big that is. Looks like more than half of it is buried. That's pretty interesting. Wonder how that happened. Let's go atop this hill. So Dr. Stevens came and visited the family and found Rancy sitting in a chair near the stove, with her elbows on her knees, her hands under her chin, and her feet curled up on the chair, eyes staring wildly, like she wasn't even there. At that point, Rancy savagely warned him not to come any closer. She was surly and refused to be touched, calling her father Old Black Dick and her mom Old Granny. During these trances, Rancy was apparently taken over by unpleasant spirits or entities, including an old woman whose name was Katrina Hogan and a young man called Willie Caning. The Dr. Stevens was at one point able to hypnotize her and calm her down a bit. Look at this. Look at this view from atop this hill. Beautiful view. So this is where things got really bizarre. As if they're not bizarre enough. There was someone, she said, that wanted to come through, wanted to speak with the family. And this was timely because Mary Roff's father was there. And they all agreed to let this person come through. Well, this person was Mary Roff. She said that Rancy became a mild girl, passive and polite, but didn't recognize her own family and was asked to be taken home. So Mary Roff had taken over Rancy's body at this point in time. Nice stone here, just says Bush. So on hearing of the extraordinary change in the girl, Mrs. Roff and her daughter, Mary's sister, went to visit Rancy to see what this was all about. You know, hearing that Rancy was taken over by her daughter, Mary. So they went and visited her. At this point, Rancy was looking out the window of her house, and she saw them coming down the street and exclaimed, "Here comes my ma and my sister Nervy," and ran out to greet them. So after this happened, they visited. After this happened, Rancy became more progressively homesick and continued begging to be taken home to the Roffs. Hoping that this might help their daughter's recovery, the Vennums allowed their daughter to be taken into the Roff home. Got some interesting ones here right by a tree. Skull, Gertrude and Howard. And those little trees were probably planted in about 1941 or 45, and now they're rather large. So anyways, the Vennums thought, you know, if this is going to help our daughter recover, okay, let's have her go live in the Roff house for a while if she thinks she's Mary Roff. So that's what they did. When asked how long she would remain there, Rancy answered that the angels will let her stay until sometime in May. She had never been in the house before, but somehow knew where everything was in the Roff house. Somehow felt very familiar with the Roff house. Knew where her room was. Knew where everything was. I mean, how could this be? She's never been in the Roff house. So how could Rancy know all about this house? The only explanation is it wasn't Rancy. It was Mary Roff in the body of Rancy's. And was familiar and felt as though she was at home. So while Rancy stayed at the Vennum's house, at the Roff's house, her health began to improve. And occasionally they would say Mary would leave and go back to heaven and leave Rancy's body in a state of trance. And sometimes Rancy's personality would come back. August, only 3 days old when he passed away. So Dr. Stevens would continue to come and visit and ask Mary about her former life. And on one occasion, he documented that she told him about cutting her arm. This was when she tried to attempt suicide. And then she pulled up her sleeve to show him where she had cut her arm, to show him the scar, but then suddenly stopped and realized, oh, this isn't my arm. That one's in the ground. And this is documented. How bizarre is that? So after some time, in May of 1866, Mary Roff left the body of Rancy, and Rancy came back to normal. I'm sorry, it wasn't 1866, it was May 7th, 1878. Mary told the Roff family that it was time to leave, and Rancy was getting better and would return. Then on May 21st, 1878, after 14 weeks, fulfilling the prophecy which Mary had made 14 weeks earlier, she tearfully bade everyone goodbye and left Rancy. Rancy was back for good, and she asked Mrs. Roff to take her home. When she arrived, she met her parents and her brother, and they hugged and kissed in tears of happiness. She said the last 15 weeks seemed like a dream to her. So, that is the story of Rancy and Mary. And you have to ask yourself, well, that seems way out there, Brian. That seems way out there. I thought the same thing until I started to research it a little bit. Another beautiful tree trunk monument drum. So I thought the same thing. So I did some investigating. Obviously, Mary Roff is right here. And Mary Lurancy Vennum was born 1865, and she died in 1952 and is buried in California. She existed. She's a real person. She was here. And not only that, there was a book written about this whole incident. Dr. Stevens wrote a book, and it's called The Watseka Wonder, because it was so amazing and fascinating. And the book was written, it's a book on human psychology. And I looked, and you can still get a copy of it today if you'd like. It's still, well, I guess they've copied some of the original print and put a book together. So it's just amazing that, yeah, this happened. One girl was possessed by another girl, and it's documented. It's they both lived, and a book was written about it. So, interesting story, I thought, as we look at the Fowler monuments. Dr. William Fowler died 1872. So tell me your thoughts on this story. I mean, most of these stories, I think are made up, but this one, there's both these girls lived. There's documented evidence. A book was written by them, by the doctor that was there overseeing this whole thing. There was multiple witnesses to this, so it's quite fascinating to me that, yeah, this actually happened. Beautiful monuments. Very old tombstones here. All right, guys, thank you for joining me today. That story was it just blew me away when I came across it, and I'm like, I've got to go out to that cemetery. I've got to tell that story. Absolutely wild story. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And thank you for watching today. And as always, until next time, keep exploring.